So most of the ice has already melted in this bath, but it's still pretty damn cold at the moment. So I just got back from the gym and I thought I'd make this video for you guys to talk about these things, ice baths, and why you should or should not be using them. So you've probably seen your favorite sailors or other famous athletes talk about or using ice baths before as part of their recovery. But the question is, do they really work? For as long as I can remember, we've always been told that ice and ice baths can help with recovery from both injuries and training. And I believe that for ages. I remember even when I was 16, I would go out for a long training ride on the bike and say I did like 100 kilometers. So that's probably 4 hours nearly on the bike. The first thing I would do is buy a massive bag of ice from the gas station, like you've seen me just do, put it in a bathtub and jump straight in, thinking that, okay, this is gonna help me be fresh and ready for my training tomorrow. But no matter how long I spent in the ice bath, no matter how cold it was, whether I did ice then warm, warm then ice, I never really found that it actually made me feel that much better the next day. So I started digging into some of the science and some of the research behind whether ice baths are actually effective in helping our recovery. But before we start talking about whether they're actually effective or not, let's go over why people use ice baths and some of the background about how exercise damages your body or damages your muscles and what your body tries to do to recover from that exercise. So what we know is that when you exercise, what you're basically doing is creating these tiny tears in your muscles. And your body's response to that is to create inflammation, create pain in those muscles, and it's basically a defense mechanism for your body. It's sort of trying to tell you, okay, that hurt me or that was painful, the exercise, and I don't want you doing that again, so I'm going to create these inflammation and pain symptoms to try and prevent you from using those muscles in that fashion in the near future. And so we know also that icing basically dulls the pain that you feel when your body's inflamed and also reduces the amount of inflammation. And people have also said that icing basically changes the way your blood flows through your body, and that can help with recovery and can also help move some of the lactic acid and other toxins that are in your muscles around better. And so it seems pretty logical, right, that jumping into an ice bath is going to help us recover better from our training and improve how quickly we can get back out there and train hard again. Well, maybe not. But before we jump in, no pun intended, to whether or not we should be using ice baths as part of our recovery technique, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. I've gone to all the effort of putting myself into this freaking freezing ice bath for you guys and possibly even killing some of my gains from the gym this morning. So I think the very least you guys could do is sub to the channel. But now let's go into whether you should actually be using the ice baths or not. So I am back out of the ice bath, and now I'm going to talk about some of the things that I found out when researching whether the ice bath is actually beneficial for our recovery or not. So one of the most shocking things I found when researching is that there are actually a number of studies which show that using ice baths can even hinder the gains you want to make from your training. So a lot of the studies basically show that the recovery effect might be neutral or maybe even negative on the gains you want to make from your training. So one of the most interesting things I found when researching ice baths is that they might actually be slowing down the recovery process, because when your body is getting inflamed and it's hurting, even though you want to try and prevent that pain, that's basically the process that your body needs to go through in order to grow and come back stronger to your next training session. So one of the big things that I found is a lot of the research is saying that you really want to let your body go through its natural processes in order to recover from training and get stronger for next time. And so that's going to be doing things like eating properly, sleeping well, and actually resting. There's a lot of recovery tools out there nowadays, but at the end of the day, a lot of the times, simpler is just better, and you're much better off sticking to the basics and doing what's natural. One of the other interesting things though is that there were some studies which showed that the ice baths can help with short-term recovery, particularly from hard competition-like efforts. So if you're at a regatta, for example, and you're not really that concerned about improving from one day to the next, really it's just about how can I be as fresh as possible for the next day of racing, rather than what can I do to make sure my body comes back stronger for the next day of racing, then there might actually be some benefit in using the ice bath in between racing days. And that sort of ties into one of the effects that I talked about when I was in the ice bath, which is how the cold water can basically open up your veins or your arteries and whatever, and basically means that your blood will flow through better, and that sort of flushes out all the toxins and lactic acid and stuff, and basically all the chemicals that build up when you're working hard that kind of hinder your recovery process. And so, as with a lot of these things, the data is kind of messy, but basically the conclusion that I came to, and why I've stopped using ice baths for years now, except for earlier today when I jumped in for you guys, is basically that as a training recovery tool, the ice bath probably isn't the best option. You basically want to recover from your training in a way that lets your body come back stronger, and trying to hinder the body's natural processes for doing that is only going to decrease the effects or the benefits that you get from your training. But on the other hand, if you're in a regatta and you just want to be feeling fresh and able to perform at your best, then that's probably the best time to use an ice bath, because you're not so concerned about making gains at that point. It's just about performing at your peak. So long story short, use ice baths in competition, but not in training. So that's it for this video. If you liked the video and you want to find out a bit more about how you can improve your training as a laser sailor, jump over to this video over here, which is my guide on how you can use the hiking bench as a laser sailor to improve your training. Or otherwise, I send out emails every 2 weeks with short tips about tactics, strategy, training, fitness, basically everything that goes into becoming a better sailor in my email newsletter, which has the link to sign up down below.